Follow along with me as I unbox the Canny Collar head collar and introduce it to Mikey, my American Bulldog mix, for the very first time. We normally walk Mikey on a H-style harness. Specifically, he wears the Hakihana harness, which we love. But because we've done a great job with his rehab post TPLO surgery, he's actually become really strong. He's gained a lot of muscle mass, and his balance has gotten really good, and his core is really strong. And when he pulls, smaller people have difficulty controlling him. That's why I wanted to look into whether getting a head collar would be a good option for him if smaller people walk him. I sized him up, and Mikey has an 18-inch neck girth, which puts him in the size 5 range. I want to give a shout out to Angel and Carrie of Angel Care Dog Training and Pet Services. Based in the Scarborough area, they gave me this Canny Collar size 5 to try out. It's packaged in a nice blister pack and opens up without any scissors, which is great because a lot of times when you try these things out from the store, you may need to try actually a couple of sizes, and it's nice to be able to just put it back in and return it to the retailer so it can be reshelved without much fuss. It's great that there's a QR code in there to provide video training and some training tips, because definitely a head collar is not something you just slap on a dog and go for a walk. They do require a process of desensitization, counter conditioning, and some training so that it's less unpleasant for both you and the dog.
This will be my first attempt trying it on. I barely read the instructions and I'm just fooling around and playing with it. First thing I really like about it is the main piece of it is that actual collar. So unlike gentle leaders and Haltis in the past where you had to secure it to a backup collar, the main part of the Canny Collar is a collar with metal grommets that you feed through like a belt. And that is great because a lot of the older style Haltis, you'd adjust the diameter of the Halti using a strap slider system, and what would happen over time is that it would move and you'd have to keep on readjusting it. So I love the grommet feature, and I love the fact that it's an actual just collar which is secure. Here I'm going to try putting the nose strap on for the first time. The only adjustment that needs to be done is the little yellow slider, which I'll talk a little bit about later. Now it's time to start training. I've got my treat pouch ready, and I'm going to be doing my first session. My goal here is to pair every component or sensation of the process of having the Canny Collar put on with good things. So I put the collar on and mark and feed Mikey for doing a great job, and I fiddle and adjust it so he gets the idea of the collar moving, and I feed him for that as well. I'm still figuring out at this point how this Canny Collar works. It's new to me, so I'm just moving the nose strap over his nose, and the moment it hits his bridge, and feed. And I'm going to jackpot him by giving him multiple treats, and I'm going to take it off, and when I take it off, it slides off his nose. Give him another yes and a treat as well. Back on, and checking the manual. More snacks for Mikey. Here I've attached the leash to the 2 rear attachment points, and I start moving it up and down to create the sensation of the straps moving, which causes the tightening of the nose strap. The little yellow piece I'm playing with, at this point I didn't really know exactly how it worked, but I figured it out since. That yellow slider is there to limit the amount of tightness that can occur when leash tension appears in the back. So if you pull up on the leash or the dog pulls forward, it causes the nose strap to tighten, and by sliding the yellow strap to the right spot, it limits how tight it can be. So basically it turns it from being a full slip noose into a limited slip noose, so that it can only go so far, which is great. It also helps keep the Canny Collar centered on the dog nose so it doesn't rotate or slide too much, which in other head collar designs often causes the nose bridge to ride into the eyes of dogs, which can obviously be very uncomfortable. So I think it's got a really, really good design and solves a number of the problems of gentle leaders and Haltis that I've used in the past. Now that he's wearing the head collar and it's sitting on his nose. I'm curious to see if he can respond to basic cues. So I asked him to do a sit, and he was able to. You couldn't see because his bum was off camera. And I just continue playing with creating sensations. What happens if I slide the leash around, causing the nose strap to move around? Mark and feed, I take it off, put it on, slide it around, build a little bit of duration, meaning he's got to get used to it staying put for a while. I try to massage his nose in between so he itches that scratch that might occur from having that fabric on his nose.
Yes.
And he's doing great. That last rep had a good 2 seconds of duration. On, off. With duration, yes. Mark and feed.
Yes.
At this point, I decide to end on a high note, and we take a break,
Very nice.
remove it, and we're going to try again in about half an hour.
Alright, so this is how the Canny Collar works. First step is this main collar piece goes just around the back of the neck. Like so. Going behind the ears. And Mikey's on the third grommet. Now these two pieces that go behind the back are attached to the leash. Now let's talk about the front piece here. This front piece with the yellow buckle. This is how it ships from the factory, but what you want to do is you want to actually pull here and create a hook or create a hoop with the yellow piece underneath. That's what goes over the nose. And you're just going to lift your head up, Mikey. And this yellow piece is in the center, and it does a great job of keeping it from rotating too much, and it also acts as a limiter, so if you were to pull on the leash or there's leash tension, then it doesn't close infinitely on the dog. And then lastly, of course, the back pieces here are now lined up, so you clip on the leash like so.
Later that day, I had my partner give it a try. So we're in the front of our house, and she's put the Canny Collar on and slid the nose strap over the nose. And he's doing really well. She knows the importance of pairing the sensations of this head collar with good things, so she's really going to amp up the amount of food that she uses on this walk. So here's why, even though Mikey walks on a harness and Heidi and I are physically capable of handling him, the reason why we decided to get a Canny Collar and desensitize and counter condition him to it and teach him how it feels is because smaller people are going to walk Mikey, and they may not be as strong or as skilled as Heidi and I, and if he pulls at the wrong time and they're distracted, people could fall over and get hurt. And we want Mikey to be safe, and we want his caretaker to be safe as well. It's important to note that he's still free to sniff. While wearing a head collar or a harness, we want our dogs to be free, to have a lot of agency over their walks and take in the smells and scents, and not feel like they have to walk at heel with us all the time. But naturally, as a larger dog, we've been working tirelessly for the last 1.5 years to build up his engagement with us on the walk. So I reminded Heidi here, hey, let's increase the rate of reinforcement. More treats for walking at heel to teach him that it pays to walk at our side. In summary, I really like the Canny Collar as a product. Other than getting a free sample, that's my only financial incentive for making this video. I'm going to feel a lot better knowing that people that care for Mikey while Heidi and I are away, who may be smaller or less skilled or less physical, can be kept safe if he were to pull or lunge and not fall to the ground. Unlike Haltis and gentle leaders, which I've used in the past, the attachment point is at the back versus under the chin, which reduces the risk of sudden neck twisting, which I'd always be worried about with a novice handler. And the main piece of the Canny Collar is a really well-made, sturdy, flat collar with metal grommets, so I don't have to worry about dogs twisting and turning and getting out of their head collar, which would sometimes happen in the past with gentle leaders and Haltis. Don't forget, Mikey has had a ton of training in the last year and a half, so make sure to combine your Canny Collar with excellent positive reinforcement training for leash walking.